Today we will learn Advanced Features Part 5. Align controls. What does align do? Like when we draw an object here. Here, a box has been created. Now, we need to align this particular object to its upside, downside, side, left side, or center. If we want to align this circle to the center of the rectangle. So, we can use Align Controls W. Here are its buttons. Go to Edit here. Align Controls W have so many options inside, and its shortcuts are also displayed here. If you want to align to the left, use Ctrl plus Shift plus left arrow. If you want to horizontally center, use Ctrl plus Shift plus H. If you want to align to the right, use Ctrl plus Shift plus right arrow. If you want to align to the top, use Ctrl plus Shift plus up arrow. For vertical center, use Ctrl plus Shift plus V. And if you want to align to the bottom, use Ctrl plus Shift plus down arrow. If you want to center horizontally and vertically, meaning in the center from both sides, use Ctrl plus Shift plus C. So, here, we will first select the object that we want to align. Then, select the object through which or with which you want to align the selected object. Next, go to the Edit menu, and here you will find the option Align Controls, W. If you want to align to the left, use Ctrl plus Shift plus left arrow here. It will be aligned in the left side. If you want to align on the right side, then Ctrl Shift right arrow. If you use Ctrl plus Shift plus down arrow, it will align to the bottom side. If you want to align to the top side, you can use Ctrl plus Shift plus up arrow. If you want to align vertically. So, select it, go to Edit, and there is an option. Vertical center Ctrl plus Shift plus V, so we will click on this. So, this will be aligned vertically. If you press Ctrl plus Shift plus H, it will be horizontally aligned. We'll go from here to here. If we want this box which we have drawn, this should be in the center of this rectangle. If you select and press Ctrl plus Shift plus C, it will align to the center. After that, we have drawn two objects here, and we need to align them to the side. First, we will select the one we want to align, then select the one we want to align it with. Ctrl plus Shift plus left arrow, right arrow, top arrow, bottom arrow. Then it aligns like this, and after that, there are options. Space control. Let's see how it works now. Here we have created a small leaf. Now, we randomly place it. The placement is done, and the distance between each leaf is different. If we want to set the same distance between all these objects, we can use space controls. In the Edit menu, there is an option called Space Controls. Here, there are two options, left to right and top to bottom. Its shortcut is Alt plus right arrow for left to right and Alt plus down arrow. If we press Alt plus right arrow, then the arrangement changes from left to right. If we press Alt plus down arrow, then the arrangement changes from top to down. Right now, let's change this object's direction a little. We need to align this at 45 degrees right now and also maintain the spacing. So, we can use the Alt down arrow and Alt right arrow. This will also maintain the same distance between all objects. And it will also align at 45 degrees. Then, there are options lock stitch and connectors afterward. Right now, what does lock stitch do? Like when we have drawn a design, and by giving it color-wise priority, routine has also been done, attachment has been done, and routine has been set. When the object's routine starts, the design is either running in an end or jump at that point. Where the routine of the object finishes. There, we need to lock the stitch so that whenever the design runs on the machine, when cutting, the jumped threads should not open. For that, we need to put a lock in the design. For that, the option of lock stitch is provided here, and its button is located here. So, wherever we have started the routine, meaning we have started routine from here. So, here, where the first stitch is, we need to lock it. So how to do that? Before that, we apply it to a single object. We press Ctrl plus X, Ctrl plus V to routine it. Now, we need to lock it here, at the starting and ending points. So, how do we apply the lock? So, you need to select the object and right-click on the lock stitch tool. Then, you will see the option of fix lock here, with 4 properties in it. None, first, last, and both. First means we will apply the lock on the first stitch. And last means we will apply the lock on the last stitch. And both mean we need to apply the lock on both the first and last stitches. First, let's choose first here. Then, here, there is a lock type, inside which there are 4 to 5 options. The first one is linear, then star, rectangle, and user-defined lock. Let's see how this will work. There is an option here for the number of stitches, and by default, it is set to 4. The number of stitches applies only within the linear lock. Number of stitches specifies the stitch count for using the lock. Currently, we keep it at 4 stitches. After that, there is an option here, lock stitch length. This works for all types of lock stitch. What does lock stitch length do? You can choose the size or length for the lock stitch. Here, we apply 1.50. So here we can see, this is our object. It will first take 4 stitches, and then the machine will run further. Meaning, it works like this. Now, within it, we increase the number of stitches. If we write 6 here, how will it work? The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth stitches. Then, the object will start forming from there onward. So, this was about the first lock. Next, we apply the last lock. So, it has been removed from here and the lock has been applied here. Now, how will this work? Now, the object has finished here, and then from here. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth stitches are used here. Now, within this same object, we will apply the lock on both the first and last stitches. So, for that, we'll take both here instead of the last, then press OK. So, basically, what will it do here? Here, it will first apply a lock on the first stitch and then proceed forward. After that, it will also apply a lock on the last stitch. To prevent the thread from unraveling during jump cutting from the fabric, a lock is implemented. So, when pulling the thread there, the design doesn't unravel. The object we have created becomes locked. Now, let's know about lock types within it. Currently, the lock type here is linear. So, what does linear do? For example, we draw the object from the dual side. So, how is the lock applied within it? Here, we apply 1.5. Linear lock similar to the angle of the stitches. It applies the lock on top of the stitch. Then, afterward, we have the option of the star in our settings. So, what does the star basically do? Here, you can change the options. You can take the first lock. You can take the last lock. You can take both. Here, the number of stitches option doesn't work. Here, we apply 1.5 in the lock stitch length. When applied here, a star is created in this way. Here, the star-like lock gets applied. The machine runs on the star, then after that, our main object starts. Then, afterward, we have the option of the rectangle. So, in the rectangle, the lock is created in this manner. It will first apply a rectangle type lock on the first stitch, then move on to the object, and finally, apply a lock on the last stitch as well. Then, afterward, we have the option of UDL dot. Here it is mentioned, its full form is user-defined lock. What does user-defined lock do? The user can create the type of lock they desire. As an example, the star we need to create a lock in the same way, but it requires more stitches in it. Here, we make the star, and inside it, we add more stitches. It means we need a lock with these 8 stitches. Just like we save the style, we'll have to save it in the same way. For that, first, we need to go to the tools and click on Add Selection to Style. In this, we need to write UDL in capital letters. There should be no spaces within UDL and the name you write should be in capital letters. Then, we will go to Edit Style, search for UDL here, and verify it. So, here the lock has appeared like this. If we want it in the center, as we want it to be like the star, we can move its position from here. Now, we will apply the lock with UDL to this object. Turn it on here. The lock we just created recently has been applied to this object here. If we use this lock in sequin object, what happens? Suppose we have applied sequins to this object with the first stitch, and its start and end join. So, the first lock here will come under the sequins. After that, the sequin will drop. But when returning, the sequin will drop. When the last stitch comes, a lock will appear above the sequin here. And here, we can see both locks appearing at the same position. The lock we applied is of 1.5 millimeters. If they drop in the same place, there will be 16 stitches dropped. So, there, the fabric mate here. Therefore, we can move either the first or the second lock to avoid this. As here is the first lock, we click here. So, the first lock moves to the side, meaning, at the same spot, not so many dense stitches will drop. Instead of the first, you can use the last lock as well. So, the first one will remain in place, and the last one will move. If we are drawing a sequin object and facing issues with such locks, if we had taken the lock in the center here, we will move it to the side. Here, let's remove the first stitch. Then, we apply it. So, it comes like this here. We can also move the lock in this way. Next, let's see how we can add locks to the design that is already done. Locks should be placed where routine starts and where it ends. The routine has been done, and it is starting from here. So, we need to apply the first lock here. Then, you can select any locks you need. If you don't need it here, we can close the lock stitch. Then, we will check the routine for this. So, it is finished here. Now, let's make some changes to its routine. Currently, the routine is finishing on this object. So, here we need to apply the last lock. Select the object. So, for that, right-click here. Then, apply the lock. The tool we are using is for manually applying locks on the object. Now, what we need to do is, while creating the design or when routine, wherever jumps occur, locks automatically apply by themselves. For that, we can use connectors. Here, there is a button for it. So, let's understand the properties before using it. If you right-click on it, the connectors parameter will open. In that, the first option is apply connectors, meaning whether to apply the connectors property or not. Inside that, there is an option for trim after, and within that, there are options for off always and keep next connectors. Off means here, no trimming. Then, trim after means after this, we need to trim. It means cutting the thread where the jump occurs. Many machines with new technology and cutters have come into the market. So, wherever a jump thread occurs, it gets cut automatically. There are three options here: off, always, and keep next connectors. If we keep it always, it will apply cutters inside every object, meaning it will cut the thread from there. After that, there is keep next connectors, and below that, the option is set to 7. It means the next jump, which we call a connector. If it is more than 7 mm, it will cut it. Now, let's select keep next connectors. Here, there are two options, tie off and tie in. Tie off means applying a lock here, and within that, there are three options as well: off, always, and tie off in. In this, we need to select tie off in. It means where to place the tie off after trim and color change. The second option is keep next connector. It means, just like it is given in trim after, it is the same here. In keep next connector, 7 mm is also given here. After selecting tie off, we need to turn on both these options. Tie off if works by placing a lock where a jump occurs after creating an object. Tie off in specifies where a lock is placed when a new object is starting. So, the lock is applied right at the beginning. Here, it's similar. We have options for tie in if after trim, color change, and if previous connector. What was written here was if next connector. It means after finishing an object, when the next object is about to be created after a jump. And here, previous connector means if the previous connector is more than 7 mm. Here, we will also turn this on. Then, as we observed the properties within the lock stitch, it's the same here. So, here as well, we can select this. We set the number of stitches and the lock stitch length to 1.5 mm here. Then, if we want to use the first lock, we can use the first lock. Then, here, if we need to take UDL, we can use it. Here, the option is connector as, so in embroidery machines, connector as usually refers to the jump. The run is not given in the connector. If a run is given in the connector, it doesn't look good. Here, we don't need to make any changes. We'll keep it at 7 mm, then proceed with OK. No property is applied here. For that, we need to. We start the design by drawing. The settings we have configured here are correct for now. Now, let's also turn on the apply connector, then press OK. Currently, whenever we draw any drawing here, the lock automatically applies itself. Now, after this, there is also the last lock applied here. However, as soon as we draw another object, from here, removing the connector brings it back here. Then, from here, we draw another object. We have started 3 drawings from here, and out of these, only to have locks, one in the starting and one in the ending. Now, if we check its routine, there is no jump at all. If we want to apply the design that has been created inside it. For that, we first need to select the object, then right-click on the connector tool. We need to set all these properties again. Now, the connector has been applied inside it. Selecting all objects, let's open the properties. So here, the option for applying the connector does not appear. Here, we can only change its properties. If we turn on the normal connector parameters like this, then the apply connector option will show here. If we turn it off from here, the lock will be removed, and if we turn it on, the lock will be applied. Now we have to do that. We do not want this object to be connected. This much jump will happen. If there's a problem with locking here, we can right-click after selecting only two objects and close all these options. Here, we need to turn off trim after in tie off and tie in only for this, so the lock stitches will be removed from here.